Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. Hello, guys. Okay, so the title of this episode says it all. I am pregnant with baby number 2, and I'm oh so very thrilled and grateful and all the things. And seriously, I have so much to share. So in this episode, I basically want to give you a little life update of how the first trimester has been, how we found out, what's been going on in life, due date stuff, all of that. And then more specifically, 4 things I'm doing differently this time around in pregnancy that was different than with Colin. So this is my second baby. I've done this one other time, which does lead you on your second time to have some thoughts for my own experience of like less of this thing, more of this thing. And like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this thing completely different. So I want to share some of those things with you that I have clarity on. So yeah, let's get to it. And thanks for joining me and celebrating with us for this fun conversation. So here we go. Okay, so I want to start with how we found out and just tell a little bit about that. But first, my due date is early March of 2024. So cool thing, I feel like I'm going to love this age gap, but Colin will be almost exactly 2.5 years older, like almost to the day. Based on my due date, it would be 2.5 years in like a day if I actually had the baby on my due date, which I probably won't. But basically a 2.5 year age gap, which I think will be pretty sweet of like close enough in age, but then he's also not in the baby phase anymore. So really excited about that. And because this baby's due in March and Colin's due date was in August and he was born in September, it's basically like opposite pregnancy seasons. And at first when I realized that, I was like, dang it, that kind of stinks because I have all these pregnancy clothes that I've nicely kept in storage that are now all opposite seasons. So for me with Colin's pregnancy, I was at my biggest right now in August. Whereas right now I'm not that pregnant yet in August. And then we'll be like my biggest, in the winter. So kind of opposite, but now I have a new perspective on it that'll be fun to buy some new pregnancy clothes instead of just wearing the same thing again. So pretty excited about that now. And yeah, let me tell you about how we found out though. So we found out very early in pregnancy when I was actually just like barely 4 weeks along. And the way I found out is actually just super similar to how I found out with Colin. It almost felt like a replay of the same morning in some ways. But the way I found out is just I'm a person who just randomly takes pregnancy tests when I'm close to my period just to kind of see. I buy the Easy at Home, I think is the brand. I'll link to in the show notes, but it's like a set of pregnancy and ovulation test strips that come together. It's a super great deal, way cheaper than those like $5 or $10 singular tests you can buy at the grocery store. So I buy those in bulk, which then makes me just kind of be like, all right, why not? I'll take a test. So I'd actually taken one the day before finding out that was negative. But then I still had this like weird feeling that like, I think I might be pregnant. I felt like I had a few symptoms already and felt like the timing might happen. So first thing that morning, it was a Friday morning, I took the test again, like first thing when I woke up, and it was very, 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 very clearly positive, which was so different from with Colin because with that pregnancy, when I first saw that line, it was so light that it was kind of like you got to hold it at the right angle to really see that there was a line there. And then I took another test where it was more positive, and then like as time went on, the line became darker. But this time it was like super, super pregnant, dark line. So yeah, I took that test first thing in the morning without seeing the result yet, brought it downstairs with me while I'm fixing my coffee again. Felt like a replay of with Colin. So I brought it downstairs kind of waiting for it to show something. And Adam was already awake. Colin was still asleep, but Adam was awake on our sofa, facing away from me. So like away from the kitchen area. And he was very engrossed in what he was reading. So he was reading some counseling type book for work and was really focused on that. And so I quickly saw like, oh my gosh, this test is so positive. And I was so shocked, excited, all the things. I started crying and he didn't even notice because he was so focused on reading. I was also doing a very silent sob, so he wouldn't really notice that well. But last time when I was pregnant with Colin, which you'll hear me say that quite a few times in this episode of like comparing pregnancies because it's kind of fun to do that. But last time with Colin, I told Adam the news as soon as he woke up. So that morning I was awake before him. I had a similar experience of taking a test, fixing coffee, seeing it be positive. And then he woke up like 30 minutes later and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. Look at this. And this time I decided, nope, I'm going to hold on to the secret a bit longer and try to tell Adam in a more special way than just kind of blurting it out randomly. So I put the test in the pocket of my robe. I sat down with him on our like living room area and I got out my devotional Bible time stuff and really could not focus. So I actually probably like to Adam looked like I was like reading the Bible, but I was actually Googling things and figuring out like doing the due date calculator type stuff and all of that. And then I did a bit of journaling because I am who I am and love journaling about like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. Thank you, Lord. So excited for this and just praying for this baby already. So that's what I did. And then Colin woke up. We got him ready for school. All the while, I was keeping this huge secret. And I actually, just for fun, asked Adam that morning, like, hey, when do you think you want to try for a second baby? Just to kind of see what he would say. And he said, he was like, I'm ready to try now, actually. I think that would be good. And now I'm thinking like, okay, good, because I'm already pregnant. So that was really fun. But anyway, so I actually told Colin first, which felt really, really fun and special. And I know he doesn't know what I mean, although now that I'm farther along, it's really cute because I'll tell him there's a baby in my tummy and he likes to give my tummy kisses to kiss the baby. So I don't think he fully understands whatsoever, but it's still really cute nonetheless. But I decided I was going to tell him first. So when he and I had a moment alone, before he was going off to school, I was like, I told him, I was like, Colin, I'm pregnant. There's a baby in my tummy. And that was fun, just getting to tell him first. Again, I know he didn't understand, but it was still a sweet mama-son moment. So then I still continued on not telling Adam, and Adam took Colin to preschool, which Colin goes 3 days a week. And this was on a Friday. So he was going to school. And then as soon as they left, I got like my little gift way of telling Adam all figured out. I did not have enough patience to wait to like order something cute on Etsy or like even go to Kroger to buy something. So I just wrote him a note and taped the pregnancy test into it and put it in an envelope. But I got all that figured out. And then I went to the gym because I was already planning on doing that. And then Adam dropped Colin off at school and then he joined me at the gym and we worked out together, still with me keeping this huge secret. And then I had a dentist appointment that had already been scheduled that like basically I was timing in of like, okay, I'm going to work out real quick, go to the dentist and then start my work day after the dentist appointment. So I did that. And then Adam also before going into work had more time that morning and he was like at home pulling weeds and working on our lawn. So anyway, after the dentist appointment, after working out, after dropping Colin at school, we finally both were home and I got to tell Adam and I was so excited. I felt like the whole dentist appointment, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so ready for this to be over so I can tell him. So I strategically set up a camera in our like kitchen living room area in a way that I thought Adam would not be able to see the camera. And I say camera, it was actually my iPhone, but like set up to record, but I kind of had it blocked where you wouldn't really notice it because I put a stack of books in front of it and it was really sneaky and I thought he wouldn't notice. So my thought was like, I kind of asked him if he wanted to come in and hang out and take a break from pulling weeds. And I had already started recording. I had my gift ready for him. And I was like, okay, I'm going to record him. And then he decides that he wants to wash his hands because he had been out pulling weeds. And so he saw the camera recording and then he already like knew what I was going to say. So he almost like spoiled the surprise before I got to. So honestly, I wish I would have just not tried to film it. Like that's my feedback to myself. If I could go back and do that, I'd be like, you know what, just let this be a special moment without needing to record it. Because then he wouldn't have seen there would have been nothing to see and I could have truly surprised him. But anyway, I gave him the card. I told him it was like a congrats on graduating late present because he had graduated from graduate school back in May. So it wasn't that long ago. And it was fun like watching him go through like the same shock and excitement and like question asking as I had gone through that morning alone and kind of like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? What timing? How far apart will Colin be? What season? Like all just thinking through all of that kind of stuff. So that was really fun and special. And we spent some time just sitting and talking together before we both needed to like truly start work. And that kind of deterred my whole work day, as you can imagine. I feel like I barely got anything done because I became busy picking out like, okay, what prenatal do I want to take this time? Figuring out my due date on those calculators and like reminding myself about like pregnant stuff. Cause like even though it wasn't that long ago for me, Colin's almost 2 right now. So like about 2 years ago that I finished up being pregnant, but you forget so much, especially the stuff early on. So doing all kinds of reading, calling, and making a doctor's appointment, all of that kind of stuff. And I did a little bit of work that day, but I mostly took it as like a Friday personal day. And then that night, my mother-in-law came into town and we had already had scheduled that Adam and I were going to have a date night while she watched Colin. And we didn't tell her yet. We kept it a secret a little longer just for us. So Adam and I got to have a date night where we were just dreaming and thinking about the sweet baby and like celebrating together, just us. So that was really special. Now, that's how I found out and how Adam found out. And he's not joining me for this episode. I could have asked him to because he did when I did this pregnancy announcement with Colin, but he is at work right now doing counseling sessions with people. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to record this by myself. But anyway, I want to talk about the first trimester. So this first trimester with the second pregnancy has been so much harder than it was with Colin, like shockingly so. And I know this is like a common thing just in life, but you can sometimes wonder, like if you're remembering things easier than they were because you're, remembering things with like the rosy glasses concept and all of that. Because I remember my first trimester with Colin being like fairly easy, being fatigued, and maybe nausea like one time, but generally speaking, easy. And I started to be like, wait, am I just remembering it easy? And I really was sick. But I actually have multiple journal entries from that first trimester in my like pregnancy journals I use, which I bought the same ones again in a different color for this baby. And I'll link to those in the show notes because I really love them. One is Dear Baby by Duncan and Stone, and that's a pregnancy week by week prayer journal. And then the other one I love is the Promptly journal. That's the 0 to 18 years one. So it has like prompts and like areas to write in about your pregnancy by each trimester. And then you literally write about like all the first months of their first year and then their each year after all the way to 18, which is really cool. So anyway, I bought one for this baby, but I've been like looking back at like what I wrote in my Dear Baby like journal for Colin. And I literally wrote multiple times that I had no symptoms. I was just a little tired, but it might just be because like I've been working a lot and like, I didn't sleep that well. And I felt so normal that it made me really like worried I wasn't really pregnant and like really afraid of losing the baby and things like that just because I didn't feel pregnant. Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravy.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravy.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. And it wasn't nauseous at all, but this time around, I have been experiencing all day nausea for like a few weeks. I had that. Now it's gone to like more just midday to evening nausea. But really, like I would say weeks 5 through 10 of pregnancy, it was like just all day. As soon as I woke up, I was nauseous all the way through like going to bed, and it just was like nothing really seemed to help it. And it was very uncomfortable. And I also had very extreme food aversions to where nothing sounded good. I've gone through multiple boxes of saltine crackers because that is something that's worked for me, and also buying lots of ginger ale. And hilariously, some foods that have like worked for me have been Shake Shack, which I absolutely love Shake Shack. So it's like no wonder that's been working for me. And like Chick-fil-A and some things like that have been like the only things that sounded good. So I've been eating a lot of restaurant food. I've also been getting chicken salad chick a lot, which is another place I like. But basically places where I can get some like fried chicken or like chicken salad has been my vibe. And when I was just 5 or 6 weeks along, we actually went to Atlanta for the 4th of July to visit extended family. And while I was there, I got really bad sciatica in addition to like the morning sickness, nausea stuff. And that was something that felt really crazy to get so early on, because in my last pregnancy in the 3rd trimester, I had lots of sciatica issues. I shared about that on the podcast when I did like a 3rd trimester recap, but it was like really rough to where like I couldn't really walk a few days because it was like so intense. So it was crazy having that early on. I had some very tearful moments where I was like, is this about to be like the next like 9 months of my life having sciatica again? Because when in the 3rd trimester last time, I felt like it was never going to go away. But this time, praise the Lord, it was just a few days, literally while I was in Atlanta, and then it went away when I got home, which was really odd. And I also had 3 really debilitating migraines in this first trimester that were really hard. Hopefully not more to come, but we'll see. And then just lots of aches and pains and feeling tired. But really the like morning sickness was just something where I'm like, wow, that's a very different experience from with Colin. And I now know what that is like. And it's not fun to have so many food aversions and like feel nauseous all the time. And I got on Amazon actually some nausea inhalers that has been helpful, where you like smell it and it's different essential oils, and that's helped me with the nausea. And then I also got the nausea wristbands that like touch on a pressure point that you wear on both wrists. People often use them for like seasickness on a cruise or something, but also they have them for pregnancy. And I've also been doing pregnancy like nausea candies, and all of those things have, I think, really helped, but it still doesn't make it go away. So anyway, that's a bit about like first trimester things. And another funny thing that I just think is like worth sharing because it felt so random, and like the sign I didn't realize was a sign. But before I knew I was pregnant, so like I'm saying like literally maybe when I was like an entire week pregnant, I bought randomly Fairlife brand chocolate milk, which we had not purchased it in probably like 2 years, but we used to drink it a lot. And when I was pregnant with Colin in the first trimester, that chocolate milk was like my biggest craving, and I was drinking it every day, and just really like, I normally am not a milk drinker. I'm like an almond milk person. So it was like so random just to really be craving this like chocolate milk. And I randomly bought it. And then Adam actually commented like, oh, wow, you haven't bought that since like when you were early pregnant with Colin. I'm like, I know, I just saw it sounded good, so I bought some. And it turns out I was pregnant again. So anyway, I thought that was a pretty funny thing. And predictions. Let's talk about predictions. I kind of have this whole outline like outlined into really random sections. But Adam and I both kind of think that I'm having a girl because this pregnancy is so different. It just makes you think it could be a different gender. I will 100%, so will Adam, be happy either way to like have 2 boys or have a boy and girl. I think both sound amazing, but it is like, I'm so ready to find out. And going from like no morning sickness with Colin to what I have now just feels so different that it makes me be like, okay, I feel like it's got to be a girl. But I also thought Colin was going to be a girl. So you never know. And another fun thing I thought would be just fun to share. So my cousin and my sister-in-law are both pregnant right now too. So my cousin is due with her first like 2 months ahead of me. So we're really close in pregnancy. And then my sister-in-law is due with her second baby 2 weeks before me, like 2 weeks to the day. Her due date is ahead of me. So we are going to have lots of babies between those 2 different sides of the family close together. So that's really random and fun to like be pregnant together. So other random first trimester things, and then I'm going to get into my like 4 things I'm doing differently that I wanted to share. But one thing this is actually a different than last time already, but in a different way. But I'm doing 2 big trips to Arizona in this first trimester, which last time with Colin, I was really afraid to travel in the first trimester, which I understand why. But so I didn't really travel at all. But I'm doing 2 big trips to Arizona, and then I did that trip to Atlanta. But I actually just got back last week from the first big trip, which was the Show It Designer Experience trip that's for design partners. And I've gone to it last year. And then I also went to their first one that was for top designers, and that was in Cabo, not in Arizona. But it's such a fun trip, and I was so excited about it and really glad that the timing worked out for me to still come. I was very worried that I was just going to feel awful and sick the whole time and not be able to participate and just be super nauseous, especially since we had to do a 3.5 hour 12 passenger van ride to the mountains of Arizona and then back. And I'm gonna be real, that was a hard van ride experience for me. I was really relying on my saltines and my all my morning sickness supplies I had bought. But it was such a fun trip, and I'm really glad I got to go and do that. And then in just 2 weeks from right now, as I'm recording this, actually the week you guys are going to hear this, so I'll share on Instagram all about it. But a day after this episode airs, I will be in Arizona again, and I'm getting to be a judge for this fun, inside company thing Show It's doing. That's a Shark Tank night where people, basically teams within the company, are presenting ideas for changes and updates and just cool visions for Show It. And I'm getting to be one of the Shark Tank judges, along with, I guess, how many of us is it? It's 4 of us total. So along with 3 other design partners. So yeah, really excited about that. And that'll be a shorter trip. But yeah, so kind of random of going from 0 travel to 3 trips, which I know is not that much, but it's more than 0 in my first trimester. And really been a fun time going to visit Show It too, for these first trimester trips. And I feel this is so common when you announce to people that you're pregnant. But I've had so many people when I've told them, because I've told people a lot earlier than last time, but a lot of I knew it. I thought about you the other day and I thought you might be pregnant has kind of been a recurring response to me announcing it. So Madison, my bookkeeper, we had a conversation like that where she was yeah, I thought about you the other day and was praying for you and thinking that you might be pregnant weirdly. And then some of my friends who have been on the podcast recently, whenever we would do our interviews, I was I have news. I'm going to tell you I'm pregnant. And they were oh my gosh, I actually kind of thought you might be for this random reason that doesn't even make sense. And then my mother-in-law also had a basically knew I was pregnant before I did kind of moment. So anyway, it's been fun telling people this time. But one thing I want to say that I put in my notes here, it's not the same as telling people you're pregnant for the first time. So I just want to say, if you are listening to this podcast right now and you're pregnant with your first baby, or you're hoping to be pregnant with your first baby in sometime in the future, and you feel that desire to go all out in the way that you announce to your friends and family, I just want to encourage you to do it. Go all out, do the thing. We did with Colin, and we did really thoughtful and fun announcements to friends and family with gifts, and then kind of hit a phone to video each one. And it was so special, and we really cherish those memories. And in fact, one of Colin's favorite videos to watch is actually the video I made compiling, telling all of our family, and it has a little bit of music in the background. It kind of cuts between telling each family member. And he loves that video. He just loves watching. He doesn't know why everyone is reacting so crazy and loud and excited, but he enjoys watching it. And so I just say that of do it with your first if you want to. Don't be oh, no one cares that much, I shouldn't do it. Do it if you're feeling you want to, because you probably won't with your second. It's just not the same as the first. And so you maybe you will, but at least for me, I haven't been this way. You just likely won't go all out with telling people because it just feels so different. So I would say go all out. Do the fun gifts to tell people, video it if you want to, do the gender reveal party, just go crazy with it and have fun. That is my advice, because even though it's been so sweet telling people the second time, I feel the reaction you get is more oh yeah, I kind of thought that would happen at some point for you, versus oh my gosh, this is such huge news. So I really in this pregnancy, I'm enjoying it so much already, even despite the morning sickness and all that. I am just I'm reliving all those sweet moments, telling people I was pregnant with Colin, and oh, that's so special. And it's special again, but special in a different way. Okay. So that is just a little random tip I had in here. So now I want to tell you guys the 4 random things, all truly random, that I'm doing differently this time and kind of planning to do differently, and also navigating what does differently look like with these things. But I wanted to share them with you. Okay. So the first one And there is so much I can say about this one, more than I could fit on a single podcast episode and more than I even probably want to share publicly because it's something I'm still navigating and figuring out. But the main gist of this thing I'm doing differently is I am holding birth plans much looser this time around than I did last time. And I'm probably not aiming for a birth center birth this time, although I'm actually not sure yet. So basically, last pregnancy, I was so heart set on having an unmedicated childbirth at a birth center. I did all my prenatal care at a birth center, and I was like so set on that. And I was even more set on that than I realized. And I realized how set on it I actually was when that dream and that vision for my birth got stripped away when I went past my due date and I had to be induced. And the birth center literally told me I couldn't give birth anymore because I had risked out. So it was like the option of that had gotten removed, and I wasn't expecting that to happen. Although now I know that that's extremely common to risk out of birth centers. And I completely understand why the midwives risked me out now after the fact. But in the moment, it was so upsetting. And I also thought leading up to that point that I was holding my birth plans loosely, but I really wasn't. I was like birth center or bust. And I also had an interesting fear at the time that I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to, of not just giving birth, because I did have some fear around that, but specifically giving birth in a hospital setting, which I know some of you listening can relate to. And then some of you are probably thinking, Elizabeth, I feel the opposite. Like I would be afraid not to give birth in a hospital. Hospitals are safer. And for me, I had a mentality leading up to my ultimately a hospital birth that like, oh, hospitals are not the place you want to give birth. A birth center or home birth felt safer to me. And so I'm navigating potentially doing a hospital birth again. And like that mentality that I thought, it felt unsafe, and like working through that, because I think that's partially one of the many things that caused me to have a longer labor is I was like resisting letting the baby be born because I was so uncomfortable in the hospital. So anyway, to each their own on birth stuff. I almost didn't even want to include this in the podcast because I feel like the ways we give birth as women can be, not even controversial, but just like a lot of opinions around it. And people are like, this is the way to do it. And I now, after having done this once and then like considering completely different plans from what I originally thought, or even thinking about trying like potentially the same plan I tried last time that didn't work, I really just think I have so much respect for all the different ways women choose to give birth and the ways we don't choose to give birth, but what ultimately happens. And I really don't think there's a right or wrong birth plan and birth goal. It's all about what you want and what you need as the mom to be. So go with that is my number one piece of advice. But my experience last time was a really long, actually 44-hour long labor. And that's not me saying I was 44 hours at the hospital. That was 44 hours that I was in active labor to the point that after he was came out. But I got induced and I had lots of interventions like Pitocin, my water getting broke. I had some kind of drug that they gave me to help me sleep. I eventually got an epidural. I almost had to get a C-section and probably some other interventions that I can't even remember right now. So after that whole experience though, which again, I learned so much and I like look back on it really positively, even though right after it happened, it felt so traumatic and it took me a while to process. I actually didn't even record that podcast episode about it for quite a while after. But I knew that no matter what birth would look like with a later pregnancy and birth, that I wanted to do it differently. As in just at the very least, not holding the plan so tightly so that when things do not go perfectly according to plan, I can be more flexible. So right now, I'm basically done with the first trimester and I still don't know where I'm going to give birth. I have an OBGYN I'm seeing, and right now am planning for like a birth at a hospital, but I could literally see myself changing my mind and going back to the birth center and trying to go for that again, because I really did have a great prenatal experience and I loved the gorgeous birth rooms and the midwife team there and all of that. So I could see myself doing that. I could also see myself potentially wanting to go for a home birth. So, and I could see myself just being like, let's do this in the hospital like I did last time. So I really just don't know. And it feels interesting to be showing up in the not knowing, but I'm getting more comfortable with it. And I would add more too, that I'm trying to show up this time, not from a place of fear, but from a place of like praying about it, asking what kind of birth God's calling me to, but also like what kind of birth I need in this season of life and with this pregnancy and like what feels like it vibes the best and trying to go for that. So I'm enjoying the indecision for the time being. And like when I think back on all the fears I had around my last delivery and how I ultimately ended up delivering in a hospital, I was afraid of the idea of getting an epidural because there also are horror stories about that also felt similar to the horror stories I heard about hospitals. But when I got an epidural, it worked really well for me last time. So I know that my body can potentially respond well to an epidural again. And it was painless being put in. I also got what's called a walking epidural, which basically means it's like lower doses. So I could literally still stand and move around and was just not feeling the intensity of the contractions. And I know that's rare in epidurals. And I've talked to other people who've had it that way and other people who have had more of one where they just like can't feel anything. But mine was awesome. And literally after they gave it to me, I do not remember saying this, but Adam remembers me saying that I want an epidural every day, which is hilarious. So anyway, I might do that again. I'm really not sure yet. Basically, my point is I'm not holding things with such extreme certainty of like, this is my perfect birth plan. It will happen like this. I'm just holding it all loosely. And that actually feels really exciting to me and more natural to me with this pregnancy. So that's been fun. And I'm also still just worth noting, I'm going to have a birth doula with me regardless. I'm working with the same person I did last time because I just think that's huge. And I think sometimes people associate having a doula is like, oh, you're only going to do that if you're having an unmedicated birth. But I think a doula is super helpful with a medicated or unmedicated birth. So definitely doing that again. Okay, so second thing I'm doing differently this time around, and I have less to say about this, but I'm finding out the gender early. So last time we waited until the 20-week ultrasound to find out the gender, and I really did not even consider finding out sooner. I knew that was like a thing that you could like go pay for an extra ultrasound or do blood tests and stuff to find out sooner. But I was just kind of like, I'm just going to find out when they tell me it's time to, and was way more patient. I think I kind of enjoyed the like, what will this baby be? Thinking and talking with Adam. And this time though, I'm like, I really want to know. So I haven't bought it yet, but I think we're going to buy the sneak peek home gender test. I'm kind of worried about it being painful because you like stick yourself and draw your own blood and then you mail it back. And then within one day, I guess they email you and tell you what the gender is. But I think that's what we're going to do. I could still change my mind back on how I might change my mind on things. But at least right now I'm planning on buying that like probably after I've done recording this. And then we'll be able to find out early. And with those, it's so wild. But with this sneak peek site specifically, they tell you that you can find out the gender as early as 6 weeks. So I'm definitely past that point and could find out now. So it's just a matter of like, okay, do we want to wait like 10 more weeks or do I want to go ahead and just like do this at home thing and go for it? But I think we're probably going to find out the gender early, which I feel really excited about. Okay, third thing that I'll probably be doing differently. And it's so funny. I feel like everything is like a probably. I thought I was more like decided on some of like these last two than I apparently am. But I think I'm going to do a shorter maternity leave than last time, but with not going back to like my current full-time work schedule as quickly still. So I've started thinking about my year right now. It's so funny. As ending in February, which at the end of February is probably when I'll start my maternity leave. That's also something I learned last time. I started my maternity leave 2 weeks before my due date, and then Colin was a week late. So I had like 3 weeks of like, oh my God, I'm going crazy waiting for this baby to come. So anyway, I'm planning to not start way closer to my due date this time. But I have started thinking about my year before thinking about it ending in December. Now I'm thinking about it more so ending in February because that's when I'm going to take a big break. So last time with Colin's birth, I was truly off the grid for about 3.5 months, including the 2 weeks before he was born. So that was 3.5 months of like literally being completely unplugged. And then I did an additional 2 months of not really working more than like 5 or 8 hours a week, sometimes more like just 2 hours in a day was all I did. So, and also during that time, I did not take any meetings except for I think one meeting with a team member. But besides that, I was really off the grid. And with us, with Colin, we did not do any outside the home childcare with him until he was 14 months old. So that was another kind of reason for all that is like we had a baby at home with us all the time, which made it harder to work. So Adam and I were very much like tag teaming it. And I would be working while Adam was with Colin. He would be working while I was with him. And we also had some family come in and help. So this time though, we're going to do a similar thing with childcare. Our plan is not to do any outside the home childcare. And by that, I mean like not besides me and Adam and family until this baby is at least 10 months. and maybe waiting the same of like 12 to 14 months old like we did with Colin. So I'm going to be entering my kind of a stay-at-home mom, but still running a business that does a lot of revenue and has a lot of stuff to manage era again. And I did it once and I'm excited to do it again. And I really hope to embrace the out of office vibes, maybe even more this time, and just really soak up the newborn phase and take care of myself well. This might be our last baby. We're not sure if we'll have more than two, more things I'm unsure about. But I really just I know for us, at least with Colin, the newborn phase was so hard, and it is made helpful by this being all I'm doing, taking care of myself, taking care of now Colin and this new baby. And being cozy, I'm excited to have an end of pregnancy in the winter, and then starting postpartum with the springs. We can go out and walks, and it won't be too hot. I'm already weirdly looking forward to the postpartum season a lot, because even though it was hard last time, there was just so much joy in it all, and all the sweetness of soaking up the sweet newborn snuggles and learning new things. And so anyway, and pausing my business so much. So anyway, I'm very excited about that. And basically though, what I think I'm going to do this time is likely same thing of around 3 months off again, all the way off. And like I already said, not waiting all the way until I'm going to wait this time all the way until my due date to truly stop work. So that way I won't go stir crazy again. But I likely think I'll do those 3 months off again, and then go to around 5 to 10 hours a week, maybe 15 hours a week, bump it up from there, depending on Adam's availability after those 3 to 3.5 months. So we'll see though. I could also change my mind on that. I just know that my business has changed a lot since Colin was born. My team has changed a lot since Colin was born. When I was postpartum with Colin, I had 2 main team members plus my amazing podcast editor. And now it's 3 team members and still my amazing podcast editor, and with some other contractors too. So it's just kind of a different vibe. And my team, I feel like we've grown in such good ways to where they do a lot more than they used to. So last time, you probably heard me share some of this if you listened back to the episodes I did on maternity leave planning and stuff. I had a lot of things that it was I'm the only person in my business that knows how to do this. And if I'm going to be off for 3 months or 5 months or whatever it ended up being, which ended up being 5.5 months, I need someone else who can do this thing too. So I'm feeling like I'm already in a better place because I'm not the only person that knows how to do things. And this time we are not moving. So last time when Colin was just 4 months old, we moved houses. And it was obviously, moving is just a huge thing of packing up boxes, especially with a newborn. And we had so many appointments with him during that time because he was doing feeding therapy for his tongue tie and all kinds of stuff going on. So we were just really busy. And that was probably a time though, when he was about 4 months old last time, where I probably had the capacity because of not, if I hadn't been moving, I probably could have been working more, but instead it was no, I need a few weeks to be packing boxes and unpacking, settling in this home. Because we had our hands full with Colin and with the move. So it felt good to not be working during that time. So I think this time it's going to feel really great that hey, we're not planning on making a move again. We're just going to be situated. And like I said, having a nice cozy winter and then a spring postpartum, which I'm so excited about. So yeah, I just think the leave's going to look different. I also think this time I feel more of a peace about taking a maternity leave. So last time I was really excited about it, and I'm so glad I did it. So if you're thinking about taking a long leave as a business owner, I can just say it might be hard in your business in some ways, but it is so worth it. Literally would not change it back for anything. But I think I was nervous during my leave of am I going to be irrelevant after this? Is all technology going to change too much? I remember while I was on leave, Basecamp and ConvertKit, 2 softwares I was using at the time, both changed their interface completely just in those months I was on maternity leave. So it just felt really hard kind of coming back in so many different ways. And this time I think I feel more of a peace about that will be what it will be. And I'm not going to ever regret taking this time off. So yeah, I'm excited about it and feel more of a peace about it, but I also think it'll look a little different than last time. Okay, and last thing I'm doing differently, I am resting more and nesting more. So you would think that having a toddler to take care of who's home more than he's at daycare while I'm pregnant would be there's no time to rest, and running this business, it's when would you be resting? But so far, at least, I feel like I'm resting more than I was when I was pregnant with Colin and had no other kids to take care of and just had this business. And I think it's probably by necessity because, like I said, I've been feeling worse this trimester than I did first trimester with Colin. But y'all, when I was pregnant with Colin, I'm not even kidding. I do not think I took a single nap my whole pregnancy. And I knew that was a thing, but I just kept going. I was like the Energizer bunny half the time. I mean, gosh, I made Booked Out Designer during my second trimester of pregnancy, like created the whole course, launched it, everything. And that was so fun. I think I had all these different things I was working on that I was just like, no sleep. I slept like a normal amount at night, but like no napping. I'm also not really a person who naps naturally. But right now, let's just say I've been napping a lot. So last night, even after Adam and I got Colin down for bedtime, we were reading and I just fell asleep randomly for like 2 hours. And then woke up and watched some TV again, then went to bed. But anyway, I've had plenty of times too where I've been napping when Colin's napping instead of working. On that trip I was on last week with Show It, during our free time, I would go nap. So I'm currently just napping a lot. And I'm also in this first trimester, I've had lots of days where I've been like spending some time more than you would think I should, just laying on the couch when I feel like I need it, laying on a heating pad because I'm having back pain, and just like allowing myself to rest a lot more. And so that's been good though. I feel like I had an interesting approach of like, you know what? I feel like I need to sleep. And this feels quite luxurious to randomly take a nap, and I'm enjoying it. So it's been good for me. So if you're pregnant and feel like you need a nap, I just want to say, take your nap. And I'm also already in big time nesting mode. And it's so funny because last time I feel like I didn't really hit nesting mode until like way later in pregnancy. I hit business nesting mode early on where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm preparing my business for maternity leave, which I've already done a little bit of starting on that, but more so on home nesting. So I recently reorganized our entire fridge and freezer and pantry. Colin's playroom, Colin's drawers in his bedroom. I got out all of his clothes that are too small and all the clothes, like going back to like newborn baby clothes, all of that. And I have them all organized really well. So I like kind of redid some of that. I also randomly organized all of our gift bags. Before they were all just in like this giant tub in our guest room. And now they are sorted in magazine holders on a shelf by the type of bag. So I have like baby shower gift bags, Christmas gift bags, birthday gift bags, etc. And so just a lot of stuff like that. I basically have a lot of organizing house projects that I currently feel very excited about. So I'm like, I need to tackle these while I still have excitement about them. The next on my list is actually reorganizing all of our kitchen cabinets because we haven't really revisited any of that since we first moved in. And then organizing Colin's toy closet in our living room, another cabinet in our living room, and also like some stuff in my office getting organized. And I'm already feeling excited. Like I said, I'm feeling excited about postpartum weirdly, but I'm already feeling excited about doing my postpartum freezer meals again. I will link in the show notes, but I have a blog post with all my favorite freezer meals and exactly how to prep them, different supplies, and like freezer meal tricks and hacks and stuff. So I'll link to that. Also, something I'm doing that relates to nesting that's different than last time, but my office is going to be moving so that this room can become a nursery. So my office is going to move to our third floor, and then my office will become the baby's room. So on our third floor, it's basically like opens up to a playroom, and there's one bedroom and then an attic space off of the playroom. So that one bedroom up there is going to become my office. And with 2 flights of stairs to get to it, I'm definitely going to be getting a mini fridge up there so I don't have to like go downstairs every single time I need water or something like that. And then this room that I'm currently recording in right now will become the nursery, which is going to be great because it's on the same level as all of our other bedrooms. It's really close to our bedroom and all of that. So anyway, I'm excited about that shift to like moving myself up to the third floor office and setting up a nursery again. I think that'll be really fun. So anyway, friends, that is it. Thank you for listening to the end. Thank you for being excited with us. And head over to Instagram. If you missed my announcement yesterday, I did a post like saying I'm pregnant, announcing things. And I will also on stories like share some photos and like things from the first trimester so far that I've taken but haven't been able to share. It's so crazy. I'm already showing this pregnancy. As I'm recording this right now, I'm 11 weeks. Y'all will hear this a little later, but I'm 11 weeks along and I feel like I'm like, okay, like I can wear pregnancy clothes right now. I guess that's another like second baby thing. But last time I didn't start showing till more like maybe 16, 18 weeks. So it feels kind of crazy to already be showing, but I have some different photos and things I'll share there. So yeah, thank you for being here. And I want to say, let me know if you want more podcast pregnancy content. this time around or not. I'm actually currently undecided if I will do like trimester episodes and things like that, which I did do last time and I really enjoyed recording them, but I'm not sure if you guys want that again. So I'd love to hear from you if you're interested in that or not. Regardless, I'll definitely do some like maternity leave planning episodes as I navigate that and learn new tips and tricks from like this time around doing it again. But yeah, let me know if you want the pregnancy content. And again, thank you for celebrating with us. We're so grateful and so excited and all the things. And yeah, if you want to hear my birth story episode with Colin, that's episode 148 in the podcast. And I'm going to link to some other stuff like those postpartum freezer meals, my first trimester must-haves blog post from last time, and some other things like that. So anyway, that is it. And I will be back next week. Actually, let me look at what's next week on the podcast calendar because I think it's a really exciting episode. Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. Next week, I'm going to have Courtney Lazar back on and we're talking all about her 1-day work week. So yeah, if you want to know how you could work less in your business, you're going to want to hear that episode. So be sure to come back from that and subscribe if you're not already. All right. I'll talk to y'all then. Bye. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode all the way until the end. I appreciate you being here. And if you enjoyed this episode, then I want to invite you to check out my website template shop too. Over on elizabethmccravy.com, you'll find show it website templates that are easy to use, strategically designed, and created to help you book more clients and customers. Maybe your current website is really boring. Maybe it's a challenge to update, and maybe even it's that thing that you really feel like is just completely holding your business back. Your website needs to be strategically and intentionally designed in order for it to convert your viewers into raving customers, and that's exactly what my M-Shop templates do. So these are pre-made show it website templates where you can plug and play your content into it with ease and then get started with a website that's designed to actually help you make more money. These templates are designed to be SEO friendly on the back end, and they're not just pretty, but they are very strategic and with all the strategies I teach on this podcast. And best of all, they're easy for you to set up all by yourself. So shop them at elizabethmccravy.com/shop and come join the M-Shop family of hundreds of happy customers. And as an added perk, you can use the code BBPodcast at checkout to get 10% off any template as a thank you for being a part of the podcast family. So that's BB Podcast for 10% off any template over at elizabethmccravy.com. And if you love this podcast, don't forget that you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts so that you never miss an episode, and leave a rating and review for the show wherever you're listening. Share it with a friend, share it on Instagram or Facebook. That's a great way to support the podcast and get the word out. All right, I'll be back next week with another new episode.